Hello guys, you're welcome back to Kinaland once again. My name is Adiemi. I am your guide on this creative journey, and this channel is your ultimate destination for all things storytelling. Today's video is the first edition of Mastery Monday, a series where we are going to be diving into essential techniques that every budding storyteller should master. Today we are discussing the technique of suspense. Stay tuned. So have you ever found yourself at the edge of your seat, eagerly waiting to find out what happens next in a story? That feeling of anticipation and excitement is what we call suspense. It is a very powerful tool that storytellers can use to captivate their audience. And today we are going to be exploring how you can master this technique. Stay with me as I read you a paragraph. As Emmanuel entered the dimly lit hallway, his heart pounded against his chest. He clutched the old brass key tightly in his hand, the key he had discovered hidden beneath a loose floorboard in the attic. It had taken him weeks of searching, following cryptic clues left by his late grandmother to find this secret passageway. The air grew colder as Emmanuel descended from a narrow staircase, the sound of his own footsteps echoing through the eerie silence. The walls were adorned with faded tapestries depicting long-forgotten battles, their subjects watching every move of his with stern eyes. He shivered, a sense of unease creeping up his spine. With each step, the suspense tightened its grip on Emma. What lay behind the heavy oak door at the end of the hallway? What secret would the key unlock? His mind raced with possibilities, filled by a mix of excitement and trepidation. He moved closer to the door. A gust of wind rattled the ancient windows, causing him to jump. He took a deep breath, steadying his nerves, and inserted the key into the lock. Now in this example, the suspense technique is used to build anticipation and to keep the reader engaged. Unanswered questions are presented like, what does the key unlock? What awaits Emmanuel behind the door? The pacing and the timing are also carefully controlled, with the author gradually building up the tension as Emmanuel descends the dark hallway. You can almost feel it, you can almost visualize the feeling of what the scene might have been like. So before we jump into the nitty-gritty of suspense, let's quickly dissect what suspense actually means. Suspense is a literary and cinematic technique that creates a sense of tension, uncertainty, and anticipation within the next audience. It keeps them hooked and eager to find out what comes next. Now let's discuss some effective ways to build suspense in your storytelling. Remember that suspense can be used in any form of storytelling, be it a book, a movie, even in a song. When you are trying to introduce suspense into your story, the first technique is to create unanswered questions. Introduce mysteries, dilemmas, or unresolved conflicts that pique your audience's curiosity, and this would keep them engaged and invested in the story. Now, let's take an example. Imagine you are telling a ghost story. Instead of, revealing the ghost's identity right away, you can just drop subtle hints and clues throughout the narrative. You can even make notes or describe some situations which seem awkward and which leaves your audience wondering who or what is behind them. Now let your audience also speculate and keep wondering who exactly is behind these occurrences. The second technique is to follow the flow of information. Release information gradually, and you only provide the audience with what is necessary to keep them hooked. Remember that this applies to whether it's a story in form of a book, a movie, whatever it is. Try not to release all the information you have about whatever you are trying to make a suspense out of at the same time. So you release the details little by little, bit by bit. And by strategically revealing these details, you can maintain suspense and keep your audience on their toes or on the edge of their seats. Going back to our ghost story example, you can introduce a character who possesses crucial information about a particular haunting. You could introduce a plot or a setting in a normal area, but gradually take it into an abnormal setting where some things happen, some events come into play which are not normal and which leave your audience wondering who or what is behind it. So instead of disclosing everything at once, let the character reveal bits and pieces over time, and this would heighten the suspense and add layers to the narrative. The third technique is to utilize pacing and timing. You can vary the tempo of your story, alternating between moments of tension and release. So you can build up the suspense gradually, and just when the audience thinks that they have it all figured out, you throw in an unexpected twist and put in some turns also. Still on this ghost story example we are using, you can escalate the tension in the story by describing the ghost's increasing presence and its impact on the characters. Then at a very critical moment, you just unleash a shocking revelation or an unforeseen event that leaves your audience grasping for more. Also, remember to always engage the senses. I think I'll be doing another video on how exactly to engage the 5 senses of your audience when you are writing a story, when you are telling a story. You can appeal to your audience imagination by vividly describing the setting, the characters, and the emotions so well that this sensory immersion would intensify the suspense, and make the audience feel like they are right in the story. If it's a code scene you are describing, they can almost feel the code. If you are describing anything that is supposed to appeal or not appeal to taste, they can almost feel the sweetness or the bitterness in their throat. Then let your audience also hear the creaking floorboards, smell the dampness of the haunted house, let them feel the racing heartbeat of the protagonist. And one way you can also really affect it is in the use of sounds, in the use of music, especially if it's a visualized story that you are working on. By engaging the senses, you can create a more immersive experience for your audience and draw them deeper into the world you've crafted, and enhancing the suspenseful atmosphere you're trying to create. Suspense is all about creating a sense of uncertainty really, and creating such an heightened amount of anticipation, and this would leave the reader wanting to turn the page and to discover what is next. So to just recap all the techniques we've talked about in building suspense for your stories, the few points we've talked about are: first, create unanswered questions, introduce mysteries and dilemmas to keep your audience curious. Secondly, control the flow of information, reveal details gradually to maintain suspense. Thirdly, utilize pacing and timing. Vary the tempo of your story, surprising your audience with unexpected twists and turns. Fourth is to engage the 5 senses. Describe the setting, describe the characters, describe the emotions. Don't tell them what you want them to see. Don't tell them what is going on in the story. Show it to them. All right. Following the show don't tell technique or the show don't tell rule that immerses your audience in the story. Finally, you have it, the technique of suspense demystified. Remember that mastering suspense actually takes practice. Let nobody lie to you. Mastering suspense in storytelling takes practice, and you want to be as natural, as simplified as possible, so you don't get to overdo these things while writing your stories. I would also suggest you start employing the technique of suspense in maybe short stories, especially if you are still under training as a storyteller or as a writer. So keep owning your skills as a storyteller, and by employing all the techniques we are going to be discussing in further Masterclass Monday episodes, you would be able to have your audience on the edge of their seats, eagerly awaiting the next chapter of your story. So thank you very much for joining me today on Kinaland. If you have found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more storytelling tips and tricks. Also, let us know in the comments if there are any specific topics you'd like us to cover in the future videos we are going to be making. So until next time, keep writing and keep telling your stories. My name is Adeyemi, and this is Kinaland. God bless you.